Valeria Berry has lived by the Packard plant her whole life. She has seen a lot happen here over the decades. Memorably, when a tiger got loose in the plant in 2015.
A tiger got loose in this plant, running around, and people were freaked out in this community. They were afraid. And I don't blame them. Look how big that tiger is. A tiger running amok in the Packard plant. If you're living in this community, you're scared. You're scared to death that you may come out your house and out of nowhere, a freaking tiger attacks you. That's scary stuff.
He used to running through the jungle, darling. He could have run on down there in my house.
Eddy Carrington, mayor of Flux City, and today we're reacting to some pretty major and exciting news out of the great city of Detroit. The city actually revealed a new vision to breathe new life into the Packard plant, which is one of the most notorious sites in the city of Detroit's history. If you're from the city of Detroit, you already know. The Packard plant has been the global poster child for blight, ruin porn, failed redevelopment time and time again, and decades, and I'm talking decades of broken promises. With that said, we're talking about what sounds like it may be a real future for the Packard plant. A 28-acre transformation has been proposed right at the Packard plant that is going to incorporate 300 jobs via the industrial plant that they're proposing, a restored Albert Kahn legacy building, 42 affordable maker live-work units, Detroit's first indoor skate park, and even a museum of Detroit electronic music, which is a cool concept. Let's check it out. But before we talk about the new vision that was proposed at the Packard plant today, we need to talk about how the Packard plant has been nearly impossible to redevelop for the last 70 years. The plant shut down in 1956, and ever since then, it has been one of Detroit's biggest headaches. You had multiple owners who really didn't have the capital to do anything truly meaningful, tax foreclosures, lawsuits, massive environmental contamination, asbestos, scrappers ripping out everything that had any bit of value, and even entire sections literally collapsing due to decades of neglect. Right in the middle of a neighborhood here in the city of Detroit that has residents that have to live, walk, drive, bike by this premises on a daily basis. The place became a playground for trespassers, urban explorers, photographers, and unfortunately, a global symbol of Detroit's decline. We've had probably close to a dozen different proposals come forward over the years: apartments, tech hubs, automotive facilities, and unfortunately, none of them actually materialized because the site was too large, too expensive to clean up, and too complicated to assemble legally. Lots of owners owned these multiple parcels that individuals ultimately purchased through Wayne County tax auctions and private sellers, and it was just a huge challenge to put together contiguous plots of land in order to make a redevelopment work. But recently the city stepped in, did a ton of demolition, consolidated ownership, and they really put real money and vision behind getting this site prepped to attract the right developer to the stage, which is a pretty big deal. This video is 11 years old.
In August, the man who bought the old Packard plant shared his vision for the site. Now, he told our Carolyn Clifford
Rest in
that
peace,
he wanted
Mr.
to bring
Knox.
new life into the symbol of blight. Well, tonight, 7 Action News reporter Mike Woolfolk shows us how workers are taking the first step toward making that vision a reality.
After sitting virtually vacant for decades now, we are starting to see work done here at the Packard plant as crews begin the process of rehabbing this historic eyesore. It's activity many thought would never happen. The first steps toward breathing new life into the long-decaying Packard auto plant. And it's the first sign that new owner Fernando Palazuelo is serious about plans to develop the site.
So this is not the current developer that has made the announcement today. This is a past developer that put in place a proposal to redevelop the site, but was unsuccessful.
We have clear ownerships, the taxes are paid, and now we're moving forward.
After working through much red tape, project manager Kerry Smith says this is the beginning of what could be a 10 to 15-year process, rehabilitating the 40-acre, 3.5 million square foot site, which once produced some of America's most luxurious rides.
The whole thing takes time when you're dealing with a project of this size, but with our environmental studies, phase 1 and 2, and the asbestos abatement, we have a pretty clear indication of exactly what we need to do, and we're going to do it.
Smith isn't sharing many details, at least not yet. But over the next couple of weeks, she says activity will be focused on some immediate needs.
What we'll expect to see is a complete cleanup and remediation of all the environmental toxins, all the debris, and the reinforced concrete pieces that are causing safety issues in the neighborhood.
For many years, the Packard plant has been a dangerous playground for graffiti artists, scavengers, and others eager to explore the site despite the risks.
Look how massive this site is. I mean, that is a lot of square footage. This is an Albert Kahn building built like a tank, but unfortunately, since it closed back in the mid-50s, as mentioned earlier, the weather has really taken a toll on this site. But what an amazing structure that had so much potential when it comes to redeveloping a site with so much history.
It is now the playground of a crane the size of Godzilla, with jaws to match. This work will continue through late next week with the hope of making this immediate area safer for both the community and the workers as the redevelopment of the site moves forward.
Once again, this was 11 years ago. 11 years ago. So this video is 6 years old, and at this point, the site still was owned by the previous developer that started the development or the redevelopment process roughly 11 years ago.
We're going to begin here, though, on Local 4 News at 5 with breaking news from the site of the old Packard plant on Detroit's east side.
A one-time pedestrian bridge on that property has collapsed. Our Tim Pamplin is on the scene with a look at the damage. Tim.
Yeah, an awful scene here. Look at this. This is East Grand Boulevard, the Packard plant. The iconic bridge that spanned over the boulevard gave way about an hour and a half ago. Now, two workers that were here, where are they? They're down here with their hard hats on. They wouldn't go on tape. They heard it crumbling. They came to investigate, and as they approached, the whole thing came crashing down. Now, the bridge is owned on this side by a Peruvian outfit called Arte Express. The south side is owned by the city of Detroit. I suspect cleanup is going to be a joint venture. No industry report, no vehicles, but an absolute site of destruction here at the old Packard plant. Back to you in the studio.
The scary part about this is that this road is actually used by most of those people that live in that community. And that bridge could have came down on somebody driving under it. And so luckily nobody was hurt when this collapse happened. But that's pretty scary. Now, this next video is 3 years old, and this is where we're going to see the city basically forcing the owner and developer at that time clean up their site and start a process or strategy of demoing some of the buildings that are just too far gone.
I was really impressed about the power, the charisma, and the future.
That was Fernando Palazuelo speaking with us back in 2017 when his role in revitalizing the squalid Packard plant site in Detroit seemed bright.
He claimed he was a billionaire and he had all these grand plans to redevelop the site. And it all turned out to be not true, I guess is one way to put it. It's not true. He never delivered on anything.
The dream turned into a nightmare, depending on how you look at it. And now a Wayne County Circuit Court judge is ordering Palazuelo to remove trash and debris and get to work on demolishing the several parcels that he owns, declaring them a public nuisance and a threat to public health, safety, and welfare.
We tend to doubt he's going to do that, and that gives the city the ability to go ahead and demolish those buildings and charge not only the corporate defendants, but Mr. P personally. He just left this horrible, blighted, dangerous property sitting in the middle of the city for years. And even now, he's still trying to figure out some way to exit town with some money in his pocket.
City lawyer Chuck Rainey is referring to Palazuelo, who he says already owes the city about $1 million. The process working with the foreign investor, according to the city, has not been a pleasant one.
From my understanding, even though the city gave him the notice to start the demolition of his privately owned sites, the city still covered some, if not all, of the bill for the demolition of these properties. But I could be wrong. So allegedly, the city covered a pretty good chunk of the demolition that occurred at this site, even though these properties were privately owned by the previous developer.
Palazuelo got involved in 2013 and bought his portion of the property out of foreclosure at about $400,000. We, too, have tried to track Mr. Palazuelo down for comment before news time. No luck there. Hillary Golston, Fox 2 News.
When the Packard plant opened in 1903, it was the top auto factory in the world, and now it's coming down.
The plant stopped production in 1956, closing for good in 1958. After sitting idle on the city's east side for decades, demolition got underway in 2022.
There were numbers of ideas and possibilities, but one of the things that the city did not want to do was demo this site due to the amount of money it would cost to tackle a site that's 30-ish acres in size with multiple concrete buildings that are built like tanks. But thanks to the ARPA dollars that we received from the federal side, we had the opportunity to demo this site that would in turn cost millions of dollars to get it to a point where it is a viable option for developers to come in and make something new out of this site.
Mayor Mike Duggan told us that today was about keeping a promise, announcing not only the second phase of demolition here today, but also saying that by the end of 2024, nearly the entire Packard plant will be demolished.
That just really just creeped me out because I was like, okay, what if he pop up in my backyard? What if he eat my doggy?
Valeria Berry has lived by the Packard plant her whole life. She has seen a lot happen here over the decades, memorably when a tiger got loose in the plant in 2015.
A tiger got loose in this plant, running around, and people were freaked out in this community. They were afraid. And I don't blame them. Look how big that tiger is. A tiger running amok in the Packard plant. If you're living in this community, you're scared. You're scared to death that you may come out your house and out of nowhere, a freaking tiger attacks you. That's scary stuff.
He used to run through the jungle, darling. He could have run on down there in my house.
She tells me that the constant illegal ongoings at the plant cause those living around it to feel on edge. What's more, for 60-some years, it's become an eyesore, taking up space that could be useful.
It would have taken a ton of money to redevelop the Packard plant. A lot of money. But man, what an opportunity to have been able to save this piece of history and adaptively reuse it in spectacular fashion. Unfortunately, that was not the reality. I do want to point out that this is on the edge of a community and is something that people who live in this area have had to deal with for close to 50 years, right? What an eyesore. And if you lived in one of these houses, I mean, that is a scary, scary place to be at night when you may hear noises in the Packard plant because somebody may be in there doing their urban exploration and you look out your back window and you see flashlights in there. Or maybe you wake up and there's a freaking tiger in your backyard. Shout out to the people who've been living in this community for 50 plus years, having to deal with such an eyesore, but yet they still stayed put. They still held down their community in one way or another.
You're looking at nothing but this building, and to be able to look across and see people moving, it will be an awesome, marvelous thing.
A marvelous thing that on Monday, Detroit's construction and demolition team announced is finally happening.
Today marks a very monumental occasion for us. We're upholding our promise and commitment to the continued demolition here at the Packard plant.
This video is 3 years
The team
ago.
announced this week demolition of about 200,000 square feet of space here will begin. And by the end of 2024, most all of the plant will be demolished.
It's not enough to knock things down. And so our economic development department in the next 2 months is going to be putting out proposals for a new auto supplier for this site.
Mayor Mike Duggan says the work will be done using funds from the American Rescue Plan, and a section of the building on Grand Boulevard will be preserved as part of history. That gives a feeling of peace to Barry, who has always appreciated the Packard project, but has lived her whole life hoping to see this. New life coming to her neighborhood.
I am sad because it's a part of my history that's leaving as well, but I'm more so excited because then we have something new for the newer generations.
So now let's check out the official announcement.
And we start with that big news regarding the Packard plant and Detroit's vision to revitalize that site, which has been an eyesore for decades. Today, Chopper 7 was flying over that area on Detroit's east side.
Look at all that land. Now, before we jump into the announcement, I don't mean to spoil this good news here, but there were rumors that the Detroit Lions were looking to potentially move their training facility somewhere else outside of Allen Park. No disrespect to Allen Park. However, this would have been a great site for the Detroit Lions to consider their training facility to be moved to, due to the amount of acreage that you have access to, as well as the historical tie-in to the city of Detroit's automotive history. And with the Fords owning the Lions, I thought this would have been a pretty cool site for their training facility to be located at.
Packard Automotive starting construction on that plant back in 1903. The massive manufacturing facility closed in 1956 and then sat vacant for decades until part of it was demolished about 3 years ago. The city of Detroit is now touting its big plan to breathe new life into that property.
Looks pretty good. It looks like they're going to try to potentially reuse the East Grand Boulevard building, and across Palmer Street, there's a pretty decent amount of industrial space, but really excited to see this vision because this is realistic, right? This is something that is different in comparison to what we've seen in the past. This is the developer having a blank canvas as opposed to having this dilapidated facility that was built in 1903 that comes with so many different challenges if you wanted to try to redevelop that site and adaptively reuse a majority of that square footage. Whereas in this scenario, they have a clean site that they can pretty much reimagine to be anything.
This 28-acre transformational site represents the kind of inclusive development that our residents deserve.
Shout out Mayor-elect Mary Sheffield, just recently elected to be the next leader of the city of Detroit. Really excited to see what she's able to accomplish. She's been boots to the ground ever since she has joined the Detroit City Council, and I am excited to see what Mary Sheffield accomplishes as the next leader of the city of Detroit.
We're talking about 300 good-paying manufacturing jobs, a world-class industrial facility, the restoration of a legacy historic building that will soon house 42 affordable housing make-live units, Detroit's first indoor skate park, the Museum of Detroit Electronic Music, and a new public space where families and artists and neighbors can come together as one.
So we're talking an industrial plant that's bringing 300 new jobs to the city of Detroit, 42 affordable maker live work units, an indoor skate park, a museum. The interesting thing about what is being proposed here is this is the first time in decades, right, that the Packard Plant redevelopment actually feels achievable. It's a bit more of a diversified strategy that actually spreads out the risk a bit more. And from a developer's perspective, this is exactly what you would love to be able to put together and execute when redeveloping a site this large. You got an anchor employer, you got mixed use components, you got cultural amenities, and in this scenario, you're going to have a phased approach to redeveloping this site due to the just sheer scale of redeveloping 28 acres. Not to mention making sure that they don't delete Albert Kahn's legacy with this site is really smart and a really good strategy that these developers are baking into their overall strategy. So as we can see, this is East Grand Boulevard here, and this is the existing Albert Kahn facility that they're going to be reusing. You got an event space, you got open space here, and then this is the new industrial facility that they're going to be creating. And here's the thing, new build industrial space is a lot less costly per square foot than the rehabbing of the existing facility, or if we were to theoretically say that this was housing with hundreds of apartments that all need their own plumbing runs, electrical runs, and things of that nature, whereas industrial space is a lot less costly to build because these are large open spaces that may have some high-tech areas that may require a decent amount of investment in certain areas of this facility, but for the most part, this is going to be a pretty large open area type of facility that is not as costly as, once again, housing, which in turn makes this a little bit more of a realistic development proposal than what we've seen in the past. They're actually calling this redevelopment Packard Park. So let's check out a few images here. It looks good. This is the existing facility at East Grand Boulevard. This is an image of what behind the existing building is going to look like. This indoor skate park is going to be crazy. Inside the Packard plant, I don't skate. I don't know too many people who skate, but I am intrigued by how active this place is going to be and how much interest this place is going to garner due to the fact that this place has a decent amount of history. And yes, there is apparently a lot of people that still skateboard. After decades of decay, false starts, scrapping, lawsuits, national embarrassment. Detroit has finally positioned this site as a symbol of rebirth instead of decline, and it took a little bit of work. Now, is this new proposal ambitious? Absolutely. Is it overdue? No question. But the most important question, is it doable? And for the first time in a long time, yes. Yes, this redevelopment proposal is actually doable, actually accomplishable, which is really, really exciting. But let me know what you think. Do you believe this redevelopment will stick this time? Do you think that this is the right mix for this particular site, or would you have wished to see something different here? Eddie Carrington, Mayor of Flux City, signing out. See you in the next video.